Through the ups and downs, we stand tall in this journey of growth. Day by day, through the ups and downs, we stand tall in this journey
Hello.
of growth. Day by
Good
day.
morning. I say good morning, but people probably won't listen to this in the morning. Good day.
Good day. Good day to you. It's a fine day.
It is. The sun is nearly up here. Beautiful, beautiful. Summer's
6:07
nearly here.
a.m.
And mind you,
Spring is on
will
its
it
way.
be summer when people listen to this anyway? Who knows?
Yeah, well, I think it might be.
So
I don't know.
today, food and mood.
Food and mood.
Yeah, so I think talking about our favourite subject.
Definitely mine. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, but food, because I think I don't know, was it at the end of the last one where we were talking about how food can impact, well, food does impact our mood and our energy and everything, and also I just think how not everybody realizes that how much of a big impact what you eat has on your whole life, basically.
I think people, which is funny because there's that saying, isn't there? You are what you eat. But I agree. I think we've learned a lot about food over the years. And I think, as have lots of other people in the world, but I think lots of people haven't as well.
Well, when do you think you were first aware? Because I was talking to Sean about this the other day. I don't know what we were talking about, but I remember me saying that when I was young. Oh, that's it, about what constitutes a healthy diet as such. And I said to her, when I was younger, I thought a salad sandwich was healthy. But then when I looked in that Reader's Digest book from the mid-90s, I think it was printed when I left school, so 1995, that is what was considered by a health professional, probably a doctor, knowing the Reader's Digest, who they used to use as their advisors, would have recommended that a salad sandwich was a healthy lunch to have.
What did they put in the sandwich? I mean, what salad?
Just
Lettuce?
salad, lettuce, tomato, cucumber. If I remember rightly, this is the sort of thing I used to put in a sandwich. Lettuce, and I used to eat them a lot. Lettuce, tomato, cucumber, and onion, and mayonnaise. And that's what
Wow.
I thought that was being healthy. I'll just have a salad sandwich. I'm watching my diet.
And what would you have accompanied that with throughout your day for dinner and breakfast?
Oh, God knows. I can't remember. But when I was that sort of age, probably when that Reader's Digest book came out, I would have had a big bowl of Cocoa Pops, and they were worse then than they are now. I would have had a huge bowl of Cocoa Pops with full fat milk, and I used to do a ton of sports as well, so that would have fueled me. Good fuel of sugar.
Yeah.
Didn't do me any harm. But yeah, so I would have had a big bowl of Cocoa Pops for breakfast and it was a huge, I remember the bowls being massive, and I'd go for about a quarter of a bowl of Cocoa Pops. And then for dinner, I'd always had, when I was at school, always had nice food of like freshly cooked food. So that was probably my saving grace, is that I got my veg, because we'd always have meat, vegetables, fresh vegetables, and boiled potatoes.
Okay.
For dinner. That was my staple diet, I suppose, when I was at school. And then afterwards, I'd probably think a pot noodle was healthy until I did start doing some research.
Did you think it was healthy or did you not care?
I don't think I had any way of knowing whether or not it was. I didn't understand anything.
And what was the purpose of the salad sandwich? Was it to
Lose weight. I always thought I was fat
Yeah.
when I was at school. I definitely always thought I was. It's the time of the Kate Moss era, wasn't it? So the heroin chic was in, and I was definitely not heroin chic.
Yeah. So because there's a difference, isn't there, between trying to be slim and trying to be healthy?
Yeah. No, at that age, it was trying to lose weight, and then as I got older, it's more like, oh, I want to live longer and be able to think clearly. What about you? Did you when you were younger? When did you first start thinking about food in a health perspective?
I think it was always on my radar because my nan was very health focused. She was actually a vegan for a while, not for very long, but she was always vegetarian. And not that I necessarily think that's the healthy option with the information we have now, but it was just that focus on trying to do things in the best way possible in the way
Yeah.
that she knew. Though, ironically, when she used to cook for us on a Saturday, it was all pre-packaged stuff, like she'd do vegetarian sausage, whatever, Linda McCartney, though I don't think it was Linda McCartney, because wasn't there a
Yes, I
period of
remember
time where
there was Findus used to do things that because I remember we didn't have a lot of processed foods because they were very expensive then. So they wouldn't have been, there was a few bits in the freezer like that, but it was mainly meat. But you used to get Linda McCartney, there used to be, and they were really nice. They were potato pockets with vegetables in them. And you'd cut them open and they had like creamy vegetables. They were really nice.
despite the fact that you being able to make potato pockets with vegetables inside yourself and they are not vegetarian, you don't need fake meat.
Yeah, they weren't fake meat. They were just
Well,
vegetables.
exactly, that's my point. It wasn't that.
Yeah.
Wasn't she like vegetarian? Anyway, it was a different brand. I think it was a brand that began with a V, and she'd do us pizza and she'd do us
Mm.
pasta. Anyway, I loved those. They were the best lunches. But she'd make her own hummus and things like that.
Mm.
And then my mum was quite health focused. We weren't allowed sugar, or I mean, I say
No,
we weren't
yeah,
allowed.
but yeah, see, back then, not being allowed sugar because we weren't, if you wanted, oh, is there any dessert? You'd have jelly or there's fruit in the bowl.
Fruit in the bowl. Yeah, get yourself some fruit from the
Fruit
bowl.
in the bowl. Oh, really,
We,
I'm not really bothered about fruit now. If I'm like, that's random. The only thing you got any sugar from was bloody a mouldy apple. No, what's a mouldy fruit in the bowl? Oh, come with some blancmange.
yeah. So it was always, health was always a thing. Um, but I'm not sure it was necessarily healthy. I think probably what we were eating was healthy enough, but compare it now to what
I was allowed
the
a massive
recommendation.
bowl of cereal for breakfast. It's basically
Yeah.
dessert and full of sugar.
Well, we weren't allowed the dessert, the cereals with all sugar. All cereals got sugar in it, hasn't it? Even like
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
allowed cornflakes, Rice Krispies, shredded wheat, like bran
Oh, I
flakes.
love shredded wheat.
The
Yeah.
ones that um, the ones that supposedly didn't have. Well, they didn't have as much as like Frosties. That was terrible.
Oh.
Or Cocoa Pops, but they're still full of it, aren't they?
Mm.
So that although I don't remember really having cereal. Oh, I had bran flakes for a long time. Um, but so I always, yeah, health was always a thing. I was definitely,
I think that I thought because I did so much exercise that it didn't matter what I ate, and I did have that for quite a long time. I could just eat anything because I'll be out doing stuff.
yeah. Well, I think definitely. I don't think it came from
I
home.
didn't know the what the connection was between fuel and exercise either.
I don't think I was particularly.
Probably Olympic
I,
athlete now if it wasn't for my bad diet when I
yeah, you
the
would.
cocoa pops.
I mean, maybe not now, but you might have been
All right. Do they have like an elderly section in
elderly.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think there was a lot of focus on weight though, not necessarily
Yeah.
from home, but that was the era.
No.
You're right, isn't it? The Kate Moss
Only Kate
era.
Moss. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. There was a
Yeah,
lot of
and no
focus
matter
on.
how much weight you lost, you would never be Kate Moss, would you? Do you know, she was, and she
Oh
wasn't
no.
like she was just naturally. Because did you watch? There
Yeah.
was that thing, podcast that she did,
Yeah, I listened
and
to it. Yeah.
she's just that's her, her build.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So no
Yeah.
matter how much weight you lost, I was not built like Kate Moss.
No. And um, do you think that's still the case though with teenagers?
No,
Or
I definitely don't. I think, well, I also think that the fashion shape has changed and people are more acceptable. Acceptant. I can't
accepting?
think of my word. Literally just had lost a blank. But yeah, so I think people are more accepting now of, and particularly children. I don't remember my daughter. What about your two? Because they're younger now, and I know they um, aren't in the school system as such, so they wouldn't have, I suppose, time with people that would be. people that would talk like that, perhaps.
Yeah, I it's not on their radar.
No,
Not really. Um, but then you don't know what's going on inside their own heads,
and they're not going to say
and when they look in
a
the
lot
mirror.
about. But I have asked Sean about this, and I've said to her because she's always been very confident outwardly, like you
Mm,
say, you don't know what goes on, and but she said she's always felt confident in her body, and it's never been a problem. So, and I have asked her about this because I was quite aware, like as she's got older, I was like, were you really like okay about, you know, and I think she's always had confidence in her. But don't get me wrong, I think there's times where she's like, oh, like any of us when you think, oh God, this looks a bit, or clothes you're wearing perhaps. But I don't think she ever had the amount of torment that I did when I was younger.
yeah. So when did you start focusing? I don't believe when we met each other, either of us were particularly focused
Yeah,
on
you just did everything. I
healthy
remember us
eating.
being in the office and having the Marks and Spencer's platters and literally
Yeah,
wolfing everything down.
yeah. Eating
Yeah,
as much
those were the
as
days when you didn't care.
yeah. But I did care what I looked like.
That's it, isn't
But
it?
I
Yeah.
also I did the marathon training then, didn't I?
Oh, of course you did. Yeah.
So and that was the first time I ever. Oh no, I went to a gym when I joined the David Lloyd gym when I was at university, you know.
Mm.
So I wasn't
But they
particularly
didn't they did not focus on nutrition because I remember when I had Sean was the
no.
first time that I went to the gym and because I used to just do stuff myself and then I thought, no, I'm going to join a gym because it had a creche there that I could put Sean in when she was a
Yeah,
baby.
yeah.
So, and then I could go to the gym and all I used to do was go to the gym with my friend and then go into the restaurant and a, have lunch.
Yeah, that
It was more of a social thing. But there was no emphasis on diet then. And
no,
it
no, no.
wasn't until I started doing CrossFit when I was probably early 30s that I then understood what diet was. Because I have thought about this before. And it was, and we did Whole 30, which is now it's now changed and they've made it really complicated because I looked it up not so long
Oh,
ago.
really?
But yeah, they've I don't know why they've done it because it was really simple and really easy to follow. You didn't have any fruit, you didn't
Yeah,
have like nothing. You
yeah.
would just eat if it
I've
isn't
done the whole thing.
doesn't come out the ground or if it doesn't eat from the ground, then you don't eat it.
Yeah,
And it was really simple. And then you do an elimination, and then you start reintroducing foods, and you then learn what foods your body is intolerant to, which I had no clue about doing.
yeah.
So that was my introduction, being at CrossFit and having a proper nutritionist. And then they did the weighing and they did the fat thing, like where they pinch your skin
Mm.
with the monitor. And it was and I really learned so much from CrossFit that I never had a clue. And then I got into all the paleo and the keto and tried everything after that because I was fascinated and then just became an obsession.
And and why did you start doing it then? Was it still always because you were saying that
For performance, because I was doing weightlifting, and it was also because it was a community thing where everybody was doing it at the gym. So you were kind of in competition, I suppose, like how much how your performance went up because you were tested by individually by the weights that you could lift, and then you tested at the start and at the end of the 30 days. And it was really good insight into how your body is, how you can fuel your body. And I suppose I tell you what I did before that, and I don't know if you did, was Weight Watchers, which was awful. Because I remember doing that when we worked together.
yeah, I went through a period I think of doing something
Yeah.
because I can remember walking down the road um
So
to
that
the
was
to
that's
the
a, that
place that
that, but that wasn't to do with that. When I started learning about how food fuels you for benefit and how it affects your everything was CrossFit. But before that, I'd been on all of these cray diets.
so before CrossFit it was trying to look like Kate Moss.
Yeah,
And then
or just trying to
once
lose weight because my weight was always up and down.
yeah, and then once you found CrossFit, you started to realise it was
Yeah.
actually it wasn't about being Kate Moss. It was about
No.
something else.
Yeah, that being healthy and fueling your body, and the more you didn't actually need to be size 0. It was And because I think I'd built loads of muscle then as well, and I'd never done anything like that before. So you couldn't just eat small amounts. You had to fuel your body because it was, quite a hard regimen.
Yeah.
And also then I started reading about things, and you had instructors there that would really educate you on how food fuels your body and what type of foods to eat and why. Because I think I have to know why. Why
Mm.
do I eat like that? So, and oh look how my muscles are more defined now because I've been fueling my body rather than eating a load of crap. And then obviously the fitness trackers as well.
Oh, like what type of thing?
So I had a Whoop once, and this was when I was still drinking, because obviously when you're drinking and smoking, yeah, because that's the thing, I still drunk and smoke. I'd give up for 30 days whilst I was doing like fitness challenges. But that the Whoop used to, I only had it for about a year, I think, because it was just expensive and I didn't really use it to its full potential. But that used to basically, if you had crap food, so if I had, I don't know, McDonald's, say,
Yeah.
and then the statistics on it would show up. And it would be really obvious the quality of your sleep, how ready you were to do exercise the next day, and then if you ate clean for a day or two, your statistics would really improve, and it would show. And I probably needed to see the visual evidence of it to understand, perhaps.
Yeah. Do you know what's just come back to me? I don't know why, but talking about when we first learned about nutrition, my granddad was diabetic.
Ah,
And so that might have been a bit of a focus on sugar. He couldn't have sugar. But the problem was, looking at it now in hindsight, I think the people around him tried to help him follow this diabetic diet, but it definitely wasn't what we know now is the correct way to eat. Um,
mm.
because I don't think there was any focus on carbs particularly. I mean, maybe a little bit, but he'd polish off
Oh yeah, because of the
a
sugar
good
and the
couple of
carbs. Yeah,
bagels and
yeah,
he'd always be eating bread. But the way diabetes is managed now, it's the focus is on carbs, and whereas with my granddad it was like you can't have sweets
cake.
and
Yeah,
you
you
can't
can't
have
have cake.
chocolate. They used to buy him diabetic chocolate from Holland and Barrett, which was, I don't know what it
Oh, I
must
wonder
have
what's in
had.
that. My dog chocolate or something.
It must have had like, never mind just not get like 70% plus whatever chocolate, which doesn't have masses of sugar in. They'd get diabetic chocolate, which would instead be chocolate full of I don't know, aspartame and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, that was quite interesting. But then all the carbs were not really considered.
yeah, yeah. But then that was like a medical thing, wasn't it? Because that would have been. But then, do you think for the performance, like unless you were, in that kind of environment, when did you start looking at it from a performance,
A different
for mood?
perspective.
Yeah, other than it being a weight loss thing.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think from a weight loss perspective, because definitely I was in the same era as you.
Mm,
I look back at photos and I was always like I am now, like um,
mm.
broader and just bigger in some ways than other people. Oh, I don't know, maybe I'm average, but
Yeah, I don't.
um,
Yeah,
but I felt bigger. Definitely was not like you, not Kate Moss in the
Ah,
slightest. Um, but also I ate and still do a lot, big portions, and that was definitely commented on by people at school. And I always felt bigger than everyone else. So
yeah.
I
So did
suppose
I. Yeah.
I was always, yeah, I think everyone was always trying to lose weight, weren't they? I mean,
I don't know. I always thought all
unless
my
you were.
friends were skinnier than me, so it was always me. Like,
I can remember a friend, a really, really lovely friend. I still remember this, like quite a funny way. She used to talk about getting a gap in between her thighs, like that was the ultimate, to have a gap in between your thighs.
yes, never had that.
It was like striving to get. I still look sometimes
Like,
and go, "Was there a gap there yet?"
where is it?
There's still no gap in between my thighs, but but that was like the ultimate once you've got a gap in between your thighs. But yeah, I think there was a lot of talk around losing weight. I don't think I could ever have cut down my food intake enough to
Oh
become
no.
Kate Moss. Well, I would have been ill if I'd have done that, wouldn't I? I mean, that would have been ridiculous. But I liked to eat a lot of food. Um, when did I first become interested in health? Do you remember me having any interest in eating healthily when you first met me? I don't
No,
really
but
remember.
I think that I remember asking you, because I know I was still obsessed with it when you started your hypnotherapy, was when was oh do you like not want to eat so much now? And I remember asking you that and saying, oh, have you managed to, because I think that was one of the
You
things I was
managed
like,
to
oh, can
sort
you
out
cure
your
me?
eating
Can you cure
over.
me? But no, I don't think it was like, well,
Yeah.
fucking, have you managed to... But I remember saying to you, oh, look, can you help me? Can you help me lose weight?
Yeah.
You're like,
I
I'll find you someone. That's probably not what the problem is here. But
oh no, I've always liked food. However, when did I really, I don't know. I remember a long time ago now, um realizing that I was getting headaches at a certain point in my menstrual cycle, and I
uh,
did some research and found out that that was probably low iron. And so I started to drink an iron-rich smoothie every day. I'm trying to think if before that there was much like focus really on health.
mm,
Um, it's always health, isn't it? When you're even if you're
yeah,
trying to lose weight, and I hate that term lose weight because it's such a one of these terms that don't make any sense because
yeah,
you don't necessarily mean lose weight, you just mean lose fat, you mean change your body shape, and you mean
yeah.
get a bit more toned. It's because on the scales it can be
Oh yeah,
the
I've
same or
weighed a lot more when I've been
mm,
training than I have done now.
yeah. So I really think it's a uh, one of those phrases that doesn't make sense or have the meaning that it's supposed to have. But let's carry on using it anyway because it makes sense to
Because
everybody.
everyone,
Yeah. Um, now I can't even remember what I was saying. But when I switched from focusing on health rather than I don't think I was like I've never got that far that I've needed to like I've always been trying to lose weight but not lose weight, if that makes sense. I think it's more about keeping a balanced, stable position.
mm.
Are you like that? Because you've never been I get the impression that it's the same for you. Like you've always wanted to keep it under some level of control.
Yeah, well, I think like I was reading somewhere that people have a upper limit of what they'll, like you see
Mm,
some people, right, and they're hugely obese. That takes maintenance. You don't just eat an extra packet of crisps and maintain that kind of weight.
yeah,
And so I think I always had that upper limit where I wouldn't go any further, and then I'd be like, "Whoa, come on now," and then you kind of rein it in a bit. But then I think it was a lot of emotional eating as well. So once and sugar and stuff. So I don't know. I just think it's I'd get to a certain weight and then I'd be like, no, I need to calm it down a bit now.
yeah, yeah. And I think I've probably been similar, but now I think the where I am in terms of the size of my body and the shape of my body is just a byproduct of eating in a way that I want to eat.
Mm.
Um, which I think I still would like to eat better. And it's still not. I still enjoy.
Because we're talking about the trackers, and what about your Zoe since you've started doing that? I mean, we know you like to talk about Zoe.
So it's
So, do you
brilliant.
think that's influenced you in making healthier choices or eating? Because you're very disciplined in your eating and your and knowing what's good and bad for you, and not overindulging.
I overindulged definitely. Um, I think yeah, because when I look back to childhood, my mum fed us, you know, what she knew as the healthiest foods.
Mm.
And I look back now, and I think mostly it was pretty much okay. Um, but I think the new knowledge now would say there were changes that needed to be
Mm.
made, but that's the information we have now. But then I've got my through what I've learned, I've got better, um, and nourishing myself more. But even now doing the Zoe, I think there's still changes. But having said that, there's certain things that I thought I really shouldn't be eating, which Zoe seems to think are okay.
Oh, that's right. I remember you saying about that. Yeah. Such
And so,
as,
well, for example, I'd really demonized certain foods. So, for example, we eat a lot of nuts in our house, and I always buy the raw,
is that
like,
because of the
plain.
name?
Yeah, I can see a little smirk on your face there. You're just wanting to put it in.
Not to by name.
Um, so that, but I've always bought the kind of raw, plain nuts and kind of demonized peanuts a little bit even on their own.
Mm.
Um, but also the salted stuff, even just the plain salted, they've always been a bit of a treat.
Mm.
Um, and I suppose maybe it still is. Zoe puts like most raw nuts for me at 100, which is good. Like that's the top score.
Mm.
That's what you want to be aiming for. But then these ones that have got like salt or just a bit of salt, roasted and salted, really mixed nuts with dried olives in, which are really tasty. They're like up in the 80s or something, or higher, and I'd never have permitted that as a everyday thing. But
Mm.
actually, maybe it's not so bad. They're still not becoming. I still don't. They're still not as
But
good as the plain, but
and after doing that, do you notice a difference in your mood? Do you notice a difference in your performance, either through work, like for what you've got the capacity to have, like waking up in the mornings, things like they're things that I really notice when I've dialed in my diet. But do you notice that with what you're doing with Zoe? Because if you're sticking to that kind of what Zoe's suggesting,
I think I haven't changed anything massively,
so
and
you were dialed in anyway.
so I was I've changed things like like rice is. I'm trying to eat a bit less of that.
Mm.
Um, but what I do notice definitely when I go somewhere and I'm not in control of the food because someone else
Yeah,
has cooked it, or I just overindulge a little bit. And I do have a problem in the sense that we went to friends for lunch and they made a delicious vegetable soup and some French bread, and I didn't need to eat basically the equivalent of an entire French stick. Like
so
two
good.
two slices of bread would have been enough. So it's not that I'm out of control. It's not that I'm out of control because they've cooked the food. It's I'm out of control because it's put in front of me and it
Yeah,
tasted really good. Um, but I can definitely feel it then, like the slump I feel afterwards after eating stuff like that. And I think to myself, wow, you know, and this happens even when it's just a not so um healthy type of food and I haven't overindulged, I've just eaten.
yeah.
And I think, gosh, do these people feel like this all the time?
Well, this is the thing, and I just think I was talking about this again the other day, and it was talking about different foods that you wouldn't. So I got into fasting to heal because I've got like skin issues and things like that, that I've always
Mm.
had on and off, and I've put down to stress, and sometimes it has been, but immediately when I fast and stop eating and it's normally, I think it's mainly bread and sugar, and I don't eat a lot of rice and pasta and things like that because I don't really like it, but it's when I start, and dairy is a major thing as well. My skin clears up completely within a matter of days, and it's completely got. So if anything like that I do, I will just fast for a bit and then go on to balanced keto or something, or whole foods even. I don't need to go as far as keto all the time.
Well,
And
that's
then
That's
That will
similar
clear things up.
to the experience I had with the dairy and my fingers, isn't it?
Mm,
I say, isn't it? No one else knows about this other than like the couple of people I've mentioned it to. But um, so I was having dairy, and then I did this food intolerance test. Now, this is the thing: I only did the food intolerance test because we got it free. I
mm.
didn't like. I've never had issues like gut issues. That's just not been a thing I've ever had. And so the thought of doing a food intolerance test would have been like, why on earth am I going to pay for that? I'd also done, I mean, I'm stupid really, because I'd also done Whole30 and had quite an
Mm.
extreme reaction when I went back to eating normal foods because I did
That's exactly
Whole30.
what's, yeah, that's exactly what's made me realise. And I think in a way, oh, sorry, I'll
Well,
let
I
you finish
didn't.
and then
Well, I
I'll,
didn't
yeah.
realise. I just I just carried on. I was like, oh, it must just be because I cut them out. My body wasn't used to it.
Ah, right.
I mean, I was so stupid to not do that properly after having the reaction I did. But anyway, I did a food intolerance test and it came back that I was 100 out of 100 intolerant to dairy, pretty high up in the 90s in terms of intolerance for cashews and hazelnuts, also intolerant to wheat and yeast mildly, and then
Mm.
kind of keep an eye on chickpeas and something else. Um, and so, but
What's the common thing in those? Do you know what's in there that's that,
mm,
no?
no, I don't know.
Right.
But the dairy thing, it is the case that as a population or as a species, we we evolved to be intolerant to dairy. So most
I
people
don't like dairy though. I don't like the like. I'll have cream because I like cream, but it makes me. I'm like, better get home quick if I have any cream.
well, that would align with, so we're born tolerating dairy, and then once we get to the natural age of stopping breastfeeding, so kind of around 3, I think. Oh my god, I need to sneeze.
Oh, bless you.
It's going to not come.
Look at a light.
I know, that's what I'm trying to do.
I don't know. Does that actually work?
It does for me, but not for everyone. Um, it's a genetic thing. It will come up
Oh,
on your
I need to
ancestry.
learn about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so most people, and around age 3, most people become intolerant to dairy, but it's when we have a faulty, when we have a mutation that we remain tolerant to it. And so everyone really should, if we're going to use the should word, should be intolerant to dairy. And so
Oh.
prior to doing this intolerance test, I'd been getting achy fingers. I'd been waking up in the morning with really achy fingers, and I thought I was getting arthritis in my hands. And I
Yeah.
just kind of,
I had that in my wrists. Yeah.
mm, I just, I was worried about it, but I thought, well, I've just got to get on and hope that it doesn't get
Yeah.
any worse. And then when I quit the dairy, it went away. And I was, for a while, I was like, well, is it something? Because when I do tricep work at the gym, I get a sore elbow, and there were a few times where it kind of coincided with that. And I thought, well, maybe it's the tricep work, it's just going down into my fingers. But
Yeah.
now I've really started to try to not do those, like not have dairy and do tricep work at the same time. And I
Yeah.
have, when we went to Bulgaria, it was very hard to not, it was very hard to not have hot chocolates, basically. Is
Yes.
it wasn't hard to not have dairy, it was just hard
Did
to
they
not
not
have
do
hot
oat
chocolates.
milk?
Not really. And oh, that hot chocolate was good that I
Oh,
had
don't it looks
every day.
amazing.
I did refrain from dairy at the, you know, when I could. Oh, I always could have, but at breakfasts and like breakfasts and dinners.
I would just be
But
like chugging it all
hot
day.
chocolate, yeah. And so, but then I got my achy fingers back, and it took 2 weeks
Oh,
after I stopped dairy. When we got back from the holiday, it took 2 weeks for the achy fingers to pass. And so,
thanks.
yeah,
And then you weren't having any dairy at all, I take it
no,
then.
no,
2 weeks, that's a long time. I see, I
yeah.
like my immediate things, but yeah, that 2 weeks is a long time,
But
isn't it?
someone said that to me once, that because I was a breastfeeding counsellor, happened across lots of babies who were intolerant to dairy. And
Mm.
someone once said to me, or maybe I learned it when I was doing the training, that if if a mother, oh, basically it takes 3 weeks for the dairy to pass through for the baby to stop having. So when a breastfeeding mother chooses to stop eating dairy, so that she can continue to breastfeed her dairy intolerant baby, that baby will continue to have reactions to dairy for 3 weeks, is believe what I heard. In my case would demonstrate 2
Ah,
weeks, but 3
yeah,
weeks after having dairy.
that's crazy.
Well, I think it is, because I've mentioned to people before about cutting things out, and they'll cut it out and then they'll try it for 2 days and say, oh, it didn't make any difference.
Mm,
But actually, I would certainly give it a month. And
mm.
maybe that's why Whole30 works, because
That's
that's
what, yeah,
30
the whole,
days.
I thought that was, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but it works. It does.
Yeah,
Well, the
yeah.
old style Whole30 now, it's like I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, that's too much. Just keep it simple." They let you can have fruit and you can have, and I'm like, well, that's doesn't make any sense. It made more sense when it was very simple.
Yeah. So the intolerance test, actually, I think before Zoe is a really, because Zoe won't take into account intolerances, because
No, because it wasn't.
Tim's
No, yeah.
what it is, they
Oh,
don't
yeah. Hold
believe
on.
in
I
it.
thought you had to do tests.
Tim Spector and co at Zoe believe that the way they are educating people and the things that they're learning mean that you can improve your gut microbiome so much that actually because in all intolerances is a reaction to
Yeah, it's not an
foods, and
allergy, is it? It's
yeah,
it's just, yeah.
it's inflammation as a result. But their
Mm,
belief is that you can use their research of yourself to improve your gut microbiome so greatly, and by eating these foods that are beneficial to your body, you shouldn't actually react negatively to anything. Though he does
mm,
acknowledge this thing with dairy, that actually we all should have a problem with dairy.
mm. That does make sense. And it does make you feel a bit like ugh, afterwards, I think.
Mm.
But I do think um, yeah, and I think as well, when I used to do things like that, I used to notice it, but I just wonder if people aren't dialed in as such. Like I don't do anything else outside food that goes into my body that shouldn't be going into my body.
Mm.
So I don't smoke anymore, I don't drink, and I don't use anything else recreational, shall we say, which I did maybe years ago, so that I was, if I felt a bit rubbish, I'd be like, oh, it's because I had a bottle of wine last night. I would never put it down to, or I'd have my diet okay, but I'd
Yeah.
never be able to pick up on individual things. So I just think now, because I don't do anything else, I know that food is the only factor, and stress, obviously, but
Mm.
is the only factor that could be causing me problems in how I'm feeling and
And lack
how
of
my
sleep.
mind's working, and and lack of sleep. But I do, and I notice that as well. Like if I, like, people invite you out for like we're doing a roast dinner at the weekend, and Pete's been on nights, so I was like, oh, I said, oh, I'll do it because he's going on nights on Sunday. So I said, oh, I'll do it Saturday. We'll do it Saturday afternoon. I said, we don't have to have it in the evening, so we'll have it at like 3 o'clock, because for both of us, that's the time that we prefer to eat. So also eating times now, I'll have breakfast and then I'll have a bigger meal at say 2, 3 o'clock, and then that's it. I don't eat again,
Yeah.
because if you have something, then I might have, I don't know, maybe some chance from getting some blackberries and yogurt and things, and she does a lovely little fruit bowl, and I'm
Mm.
not a massive fan of yogurt, but I will have it. um and yeah, so we'll have that, but I don't, and I think it's more, you'll eat a bigger amount of food earlier on in the day, so then that doesn't affect your sleep and things like that.
Yeah, we
I don't
that
know.
actually there's I'm thinking, as we're talking, I'm thinking of so many different things that have, like, it's almost been like a drip feed that's just improved things. We started eating at about 4:30, when the kids went through a phase where they'd come home from school. When they were at the school, they'd come home and get home at like 4 and be starving, and so we'd give them a decent sized snack, and then prepare dinner. We would be having at maybe like 6, but they'd eat so much for their snack that come the dinner time, they wouldn't actually be hungry for the dinner. So in the end, we just brought dinner forward and just had dinner
Yeah,
ready
makes
for
sense.
4:30. And that works really well for all of us. And I feel so much more comfortable
Mm,
eating earlier.
Like if we go out for dinner now, if people invite us out for dinner, I'm like, oh, like what time's the table booked for? You know, you're
Yeah,
just like, oh, 8:30. I'm like, that's my bedtime. I can't eat
likewise.
that late. You know,
Yeah.
and you're just like, but I do, and then I feel absolutely awful the next day
Oh, I wake
because
up
I'm
with
eating so
pains in my
late.
stomach. Yeah, yeah, it's awful. But there's
Whereas
other,
before, I'd be having a kebab at 2 o'clock in the morning after necking a bottle of
yeah,
vodka,
yeah,
and I'd
of
still
course,
be all right.
Dixie chicken or something. Oh, that must be.
Uh,
But that's another thing that during um, COVID, my brother sent me one of these um, videos of animals being kept for meat, like the conditions they're in and the way they're
oh,
treated, and it put me off so much that I started looking for somewhere where I could buy meat that
oh,
was
that's right. Yeah.
reared ethically. Um, so then it wasn't so much about the health for me, it was more about the kindness to the animals. And I found Piper's Farm, but then, of course, they talk a lot about how they don't medicate their animals and all of those kind of things. And I started to think about all of the stuff that's inside the meat we're eating.
Mm.
And now the thought of eating meat that has not come from Piper's Farm, I do eat, I do. Um,
Yeah. But I
I
do
don't
think
buy it.
that we're lucky in this country to have the quality of food that we do. Because I was talking to somebody over and like have the access to be able to get food like that. Because I was talking to there's a couple of people that I know over in the States, and they have food deserts over there. So, and one woman in particular, I was talking to her a few weeks ago, and she was saying about how she lives in an area. I don't know where she's in, near Los Angeles. And she said that she basically, they produce a ton of food there, but they don't actually have it for sale there. So it all goes out of town to sort of other areas, and they don't get any of this, you know, fresh produce within their town. They're not a food desert there, but some of these other places they literally do not have any kind of unprocessed food in their shops, or any food that they do have is so engineered or bad quality that even them thinking, like, you know, the nutrients in it are a quarter of anything you'd get anywhere else. So even if you're eating a piece of chicken, they've inflated the breast with God knows what, and you know, just the actual quality of what they consider to be fresh food isn't fresh. So these people have got no hope
What's a
because
food
they're in a
desert?
food desert. So it's basically an area, and they have these in America. Because another woman I know, she worked for a charity that helps these communities, and their places maybe way out. I don't know specifics of where they are, but they're in, say, the middle of America somewhere, and they don't have access to any kind of unprocessed food. So everything that's in their shops is packaged, processed. There's no fresh food. Any food that there is fresh is so highly priced that they can't afford it. And a lot of that comes down to, you know, like you know, here we can go to, I don't know, Sainsbury's, and they've got like the wonky section. Like you've always got
Yeah,
access to if you to unprocessed fresh food, then they just don't have it there, or they've not got the conditions to be able to grow their own food or the education. And there's charities in America that provide these communities with the fresh food that they need. But it's a real big problem in America,
yeah.
and part of their, you know, the reason. And I had no clue about it. I was only speaking to her probably 6 months ago, which I heard of this. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know.
I think I hear what you're saying, and I agree. But I think we're only one step down here. I think I believe. Oh, I don't know if I'm right. This is what I've been told. But you
Mm.
go to countries maybe like Greece or somewhere like that, and they're then a step down from us, if you like. I think they are less mass producing, maybe because populations are lower. Maybe not Greece, maybe somewhere like Cyprus or somewhere like that. But I don't know. And don't the Mediterraneans have a bit less like meat in their diet anyway, so it's maybe higher quality.
Mm.
Um,
And their thing is they're hot country. They've got lots more sunlight, and you go there and you have their salad. I love having a
yeah,
salad when I go places because their tomatoes are red. They're like everything's colourful, and they just taste amazing,
they
don't
don't need
they?
all the.
Compared
That's
to,
that's actually an interesting. I won't be able to quote it directly, but in the Zoe book, he says something like, "In our country, and maybe this is everywhere, but in our country, we overestimate the risks to things like sell-by dates on food, and underestimate the risks of all of the chemicals that are sprayed on and put in food."
Yeah.
And we'll happily go and buy like a chicken pumped full of medication, or a apple covered in goodness knows what to make it look shiny, but then we'll throw something out that's perfectly edible and completely fine because it was best before yesterday.
Mm. And even to like looking on ingredients for, I can't think what Pete and I were looking at the other day, and it was like, I don't know, healthy. Like even health bars, things like
Mm,
that. They're not like, but
no.
and looking at the ingredients, it was on something supposedly that was good for you, and there was about 1 million ingredients. I couldn't even say some of them, and I was like, "There's
Yeah.
nothing healthy about this." And it was promoted as like, I don't know, one of those keto bars or something like that you get at the station,
You've also
and they've
just
got
reminded
keto
me.
written on them.
You reminded me of something I did 10 years ago now. I started to follow the I Quit Sugar um, lady. So it's Sarah Wilson. I think she's Australian. Anyway, she's no longer. She's quit the company. Basically, it got quite big, and they even had products in Sainsbury's, and it kind of ran away with itself, and it got to the point where it wasn't in alignment with her anymore, because it was being controlled by people who were bigger than her, and she lost control. It became a brand, and she didn't like it, so she tried to sell the company, which she couldn't because she was the face of the company. And so she's just let it go. But she'd written a good number of books, about 4 or 5 books, and her thing was literally I quit sugar. So she just any form of sugar, um, she recommended that we don't eat. And the books were so educational, and I read those 10 years ago, and that's when I first started. I quit sugar for 2 years, but I didn't do
Mm,
it properly because it was like, I, I'm not entirely sure what she said about things like bread and carbs, basically, but I think that my knowledge was only part of the way there.
mm.
But I did for 2 years. I didn't have anything that had sugar added, so I wouldn't have tomato ketchup. I wouldn't
Yeah, I
eat
don't think I've.
pizza. I wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, it was
And
easy
how
and
did you
hard.
feel? Did you notice such a mass? Because I have to have a result to, like, I feel, because I know that obviously there's what you can't see going on in your body, but if I
Mm.
don't feel like when I do therapeutic keto, say, like when I'm really hard on it and strict, I feel amazing. And I'm like, woohoo, yeah, let's go on a 10 mile. That's a lie, I don't go on a 10 mile run. But you feel like you can do it. It makes you feel super amazing. Did you feel like that after doing?
I had a newborn baby, so I felt amazing because I was eating
Mm.
loads, because my kind of rule for myself was don't eat sugar, but then
Don't,
eat
yeah,
whatever
but
else
eat whatever you
you
like.
want.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember how I felt.
Mm.
Um, I should pay more attention to it, really. I think I don't. What I do pay attention to is the sluggish, horrible feeling I feel when I've eaten stuff that I
Yeah.
wouldn't normally eat, and it's often at a weekend. I'm pretty rhythmic with it, Monday to Friday, but on a weekend I can feel pretty ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the thing. And even like I'll do a roast dinner on, so I'm doing it on Saturday, and I will literally have a plate full of potatoes. And I will literally, I'll be like, oh, I need a little lay down now. Need a
Yeah,
little nap.
it's that
Little,
feeling. It's that I need to go to sleep.
mm,
Can't keep my eyes open.
put yourself into a
Definitely,
coma.
yeah, definitely that. I think I don't experience anxiety as a result of foods, but I think because I don't, I know what it is. So I know a lot of people who don't drink caffeine or eat chocolate, for example, because they say it gives them anxiety. And I do try and educate people and say it's not giving you anxiety, it's just speeding up your heart rate. and making you feel like you are experiencing anxiety. The anxiety response is a totally different thing. And so I do sometimes notice that now. If I eat too much chocolate or coffee or sugar or something, I can notice that kind of racing heart thing. I stopped drinking so much alcohol as well, actually, when I noticed that I would get really bad heart palpitations. Like, it was quite scary, actually. And that put me off
Mm.
drinking alcohol as well. We haven't really talked about alcohol, probably because you had a difficult relationship with alcohol, so it's
Yeah.
different to.
Yeah, and also it doesn't really factor in. You didn't, so it's kind of it doesn't really factor into. But I suppose with a lot of people, and I did say earlier about because of the not drinking now, I think that I am more concerned about my diet than I was back then because I know that that's the only thing that going in is the food,
Yeah,
not
I think
alcohol, not smoking, not you know.
mm, I think that's a really valid point. Like, if you're drinking alcohol, and I don't mean like you were, I mean just like, um well, you probably actually weren't. I think you defined yourself as having a problem with alcohol, and some
Mm.
people drink the same amount as you and don't think they have a problem. And I've certainly got friends in my life who I think you've got a problem, and they would not see what they do as having a problem at all. They think that it's they get frustrated with me that I'm not doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
But
it's all relative.
it's all it's all subjective. I look at people sometimes and I think, well, you know, you probably don't have a clue really what's affecting you. And I think that the more you focus on it in terms of trying to do the thing that's best for your body, the more you notice when you've had something that isn't great for your body. But if what
Mm.
you're putting in it all day, every day is not great, then um, how are you to notice
Yeah.
when something doesn't work well for you? So yeah, I think, but I certainly notice with alcohol, gosh, like I definitely notice. And it's not just the normal like hangover. It is things like lying in bed with really bad racing heart and stuff like that, which
Mm.
that just now scares me. I'm like, I don't want to. I do drink occasionally, but a lot of the time I'm like, I don't really want to go to bed tonight and lie there as my heart's like racing.
Yeah. Yeah. Who does? Who does? So, what do you think? Do you think as you get older, do you think you'll still be as disciplined with your food intake and what will you be fueling, or do you think you get to an age where you just think like, oh, go on, just have the chocolate croissant,
Do you think I'll still be as
or
boring?
no? But I think I just wonder, do you think this is it now?
Um,
It's
well,
just it's a way of life.
do you know, I think the way I am now is potentially, well, what if I learn more? What if I learn
Oh,
more and I get even more strict? The other day when we were in Portugal, we went to a cafe in the morning. We did that nice thing where you go and get like a, something for breakfast. And I wouldn't usually have something, but they had these morning buns. Have you ever had a morning bun?
no, but they sound amazing, and I want one.
Yeah.
What's a morning bun?
Well,
What is
it's
it?
like kind of a bit crispy. It's like a Actually, she described it as
Oh,
being
like a
like a
cronut.
croissant in a
Yeah.
bun with like sugar and cinnamon, but it was kind of puff
Yes.
pastry, like crispy.
Yes. Do you know what they used to have? There used to be a place up the road called the Roll Boys, and they used to basically you could go up there. They'd cook fresh cinnamon rolls and put whatever icing you wanted on them, and you'd go and get one. They were the nicest thing I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And
Well,
they
this had
moved. They're
dairy in,
amazing.
and so what good old Tim Spector does is if he's going to have something that he knows isn't good for his body, for example, he reacts um, quite strongly to
Yeah.
um, sugary stuff, and
Yeah.
so he will have it on the very rare occasion, but he'll do it um, when there's something special about it. Like, he'll go somewhere where it's really good quality, um, or it's a nice occasion or something. And that's, I think, what I like to do. I will get something if I can get it in particularly good quality
Mm,
and really enjoy it on occasion, but definitely not make it an everyday thing, because there's always an
yeah.
excuse, isn't there? There's always an excuse.
It's a slippery slope, and before you know it, you'll be in a diabetic coma.
Yeah, exactly. What about you?
I don't think I'm as disciplined as you, and I definitely know I'm not. When it comes to the food that I eat, but I definitely think I try my best to with the longevity side of things. 'Cause it's all this biohacking and things like that. That I was watching something the other day, and it had this guy who's basically he takes it to extremes. I can't think what his name is now. I really should have thought about this before I came on. But he basically he will just he'll only have I don't know like berries for breakfast, and then whatever it is, like really take it to
Mm.
extremes with the biohacking side of things, and like I don't know, like flushing out your blood and stuff like that to live longer. Like, do you want it? Are we going to be now for longevity to live longer, or are we going to be? How far do we take it?
Well, I think that's where I would differ. You see, I don't know that I'm necessarily trying to live longer. I think I'm just trying to be able to carry on living how I am now for longer. So I
Yeah,
don't really want to
not
get
eternal
to,
youth. This guy was talking about living to 200 or something. I was like, whoa there, or living indefinitely.
wow, well, that would be really interesting. Living indefinitely. Do you think that's even possible?
He thinks it is, and he has got. Trying to think who he
Oh,
was.
I'd like to watch him then, watch him grow. But I would like to still be able to.
Brian Johnson, his name is.
Brian Johnson.
Famed for his. I don't think I think I might have seen him. He might have been on somewhere, but it was on the Kardashians the other day. He was on there.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to still be active when I'm older.
Yeah. Brian Johnson thinks he's going to live forever. Yeah.
Well, I'm
He
going to
he
go and
does all
Google
these,
him.
like all of these facial, like I don't know, like blood transfusions and light therapy and things like that. He does all of that.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Mm.
Let's see if
It's
Brian Johnson
interesting.
lives forever, and then I'll
Yeah.
tell you
Well,
whether
we
I'm going
won't
to
know
stick at
because
it
we'll
or
probably
I'm.
won't live as long as him.
Is he older than us?
I think he's probably about the same age.
Uh,
I don't know, but yeah. Look him up. He's an
I'll look him up.
interesting fellow. He does look like he's computer generated.
Well, let's
Mm.
let's round this
So we
off
end it there.
by all going to Google Brian Johnson.
Yeah. See if we can all live forever and take into what he's going to say. It's been a
Isn't
pleasure.
that a
Oh,
song? Isn't it?
oh,
I've lost you. Oh, there you're back.
hello.
Hi. Can you? You're frozen on my screen. Oh, you're back. You're back. Um,
Hello.
it's a song, isn't it? Live forever.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, on that note.
On that note, let's talk next week.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Together we'll grow, 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 grow. Grow together we'll grow, grow, grow.